Jamie Redknapp thinks the German could be the right man at the right time.
I think this is the dream job. You know, you haven't really, in effect, if you forget, obviously Gareth had that record of getting to finals and we haven't won. You haven't really, in a way, got a lot to beat. You haven't won anything since '66. We've got the best squad we've had in years, a huge opportunity. You know, I am excited for Thomas. I think this is a great opportunity for him, the job going forward, working with a lot of really, really exciting young players. I'm sure he's licking his lips thinking, if I can just get this team going, give them that confidence and that belief to get to the next step. He's an articulate guy. He's charismatic. He's an exciting coach. I can't think of a better international manager than what we've just hired. Obviously, people were talking about Pep, and we were maybe dreaming about that for a little while. But we've now got to a point where we've got Thomas Tuchel. He's a Champions League winner, done great at all the clubs he's been at. So I'm relatively excited about it. I really am.
Well, they've got a great coach, that there's no doubt. Thomas Tuchel's got a proven track record. He's obviously as well proven that he can win big knockout matches. So I think from that point of view, the FA cannot be in any way criticised. They've probably got the best available coach in Europe and the world at this moment in time. So I think fitting that criteria, absolutely, they're spot on. Since Thomas Tuchel and Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp and Mauricio Pochettino have come to the Premier League, Antonio Conte and all these coaches in the last 7 or 8 years, I do believe our football's fantastic in this country. So I think Thomas Tuchel's got nothing to answer this afternoon. He's a great coach. He's got a proven track record. He's a winner. He knows he can work with great players and handle big personalities. He ticks every single box. And to be fair, the FA will definitely push those credentials forward.
In knockout football, whether it's international football or club football, you need an element of luck to win a cup competition. But you also need to navigate individual games. And Thomas Tuchel is the master at that. Even last season, he was basically a minute away from getting to a Champions League final with a really average and poor Bayern Munich team who had a really poor season. But as I said, he nearly got to that Champions League final. You know what he did at Chelsea, taking on Pep Guardiola in a final and getting the better of him. And I think sometimes that's what it maybe comes down to. Maybe where we have been lacking with Gareth, who I think did a brilliant job, that in those finals that we've been in, the other managers maybe just had the upper hand with them, whether from the teams picked tactically, how they've been set up, substitutions, at what time you make those changes. So I think that's something where I'd be very surprised if Thomas Tuchel is outdone in that sense in a big tournament game in the next World Cup. You see him here with Conte. I was actually commentating that day, and I wasn't sure whether I was allowed to say it, but I said I'm absolutely loving this because again we're showing it a few years later. These are big talking points, major moments in the Premier League that we look back and people might say, oh, you shouldn't see this on a football pitch, but it's a passionate game, and we all feel very strongly about it. And Thomas Tuchel's no different, so he will bring unbelievable passion, even though he's a German, to the English national team. He'd be passionate about every other job he's had, and I don't think the England national team will be any different. So I look forward to seeing him on the touchline getting wound up in a World Cup quarter-final, or hopefully semi-final and final.
He's confident, he's charismatic, isn't he? We've seen that face, that voice many times before in England. You can see that he's honoured and maybe a little nervous. He understands the size of the job. So I think he's very excited about it because, as he said on a few occasions, it's much different from club management, and he will be learning as he goes along. But there's no doubt in his talent as a coach. He's got a winning mentality. So we'll see.
Well, Tuchel becomes England's 8th manager this century and 3rd foreign manager after Sven-Göran Eriksson and Fabio Capello. The FA say they did interview a few English coaches for the role before deciding on Tuchel. Gary Neville thinks the appointment is damaging to English coaches.
I was supportive 20-odd years ago when they appointed Sven-Göran Eriksson and said that I thought we needed to look outside and take the blinkers off and sort of open our eyes to international coaches coming from outside of England. But at the end of that, what would be 5, 6, 7, 8 year period, I came to the conclusion that the damage to English coaching was significant, and changed my mind at the end of my career, saying that I think that what needs to happen now is that if we're not going to promote English coaches actually in our own country, then we can't ask anybody to promote English coaching either in the Premier League or in sort of leagues around Europe. I think Gareth in this last 6-7 years, I think has basically restored an element of faith, not just in English coaching, but also in English players. And the technical ability of English players has improved enormously, I think, in the last 5 to 10 years. So I think what the FA have done, it doesn't seem like a strategic decision. It feels like, to me, a quite instinctive one off the back of what's happened in the last couple of weeks. Thomas Tuchel has been available for months. There was no need to appoint an interim of Lee Carsley if they wanted Thomas Tuchel months ago. So this, to me, smacks of it being quite a recent decision. I don't think Thomas Tuchel should be in any way, shape or form questioned in a difficult way this afternoon when he sits in the press conference, because I think that he's a great coach. He's taken a job with a group of talented players, and I think everybody in our country, including myself, will wish him all the best and hope we can get over the line and win a trophy. But I think there are some serious questions for the FA to answer in respect of English coaching. I do think that we are damaging ourselves, accepting that Thomas Tuchel is probably better, it is better actually, than any of the other English candidates. But with the likes of Graham Potter that have managed in the sort of higher echelons of the Premier League, we've got Eddie Howe currently at Newcastle. I do think there are outstanding candidates that could have been appointed that were English.
My feeling is that it's international football. The whole point of international football, certainly with the major nations who compete for the tournaments, is that it's your best v their best. Now, club football is different, and we love it. Different nationalities, different coaches in the Premier League or the Champions League level, and it's a real mix. But the thing that makes international football different from the club game is it's people from your country. I know that's skewed a little bit with players, and maybe they weren't born in the country, or it goes back to maybe the grandparents. And I also understand certain nations having a foreign coach who's going to have an influence on them that will drag the whole footballing structure up with them and pass on his experience and expertise to all the coaches throughout the system and the country. But when I think of England now, we're so close to winning a major tournament, and there's so much good work gone into producing these players, St George's Park. It just doesn't feel right to me that we have a foreign coach. And again, it's not just about England. I don't think Italy should. I don't think Germany should. I don't think France should. Portugal have at this moment in Roberto Martinez, which I find strange. So, yeah, that's my take on it. I'm not going to lose any sleep on it.
Well, Neville and Carragher aren't alone. Other pundits think the FA's decision could be a step backwards for English coaches 12 years on from Fabio Capello's departure.
I am disappointed that we've not continued with an English manager. I thought we'd moved away from the Sven-Göran Eriksson, Fabio Capello years. And I do believe that the England manager should be English in the way that, Germany, Italy, Spain probably feel that they should have a homegrown manager. So from that point of view, it's disappointing. It's disappointing for English coaches, I think. And Mark Bullingham said that they had spoken to some English coaches. Now, how those conversations went, we don't know, but you're assuming Eddie Howe was in there, Graham Potter. Tuchel is more than capable of deciding what he wants going forward and picking the right blend, I think. And I wish him well. I would have preferred to have seen an Englishman, but now he's got the job. We've got to all get behind him, cut him a little bit of slack at the start because, as I said, he's learning on his feet. But if he can bring England a trophy, then who would care what his passport says? So let's hope he can do that.
I think going forward, the FA will have to look at this situation and go, right, okay, how do we make our English coaches better to make sure that the next one is probably an English coach? Is it something to do with the coaching badges? Are we fulfilling everything, all the requirements to get the best coaches? Obviously, with foreign owners now, they probably don't feel the need, or they won't necessarily gravitate towards an English coach, which makes it more difficult. That's why Eddie Howe doing the job he has at Newcastle is excellent. So hopefully more English managers in higher positions will certainly help, maybe making sure that the next England manager is an English one. I think it's interesting that we're going to have one of the best coaches in world football, best managers in world football managing our team. Let's hope it works out. And the truth is, just win. Don't worry about anything else. Just win a trophy and you will be an absolute hero. We won't care where you're from.
for me, it's not an issue in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter. It's the best man for the job. In an ideal world, of course, you'd like it to be an Englishman. That pride of playing for your country, of managing your country, is the ultimate. But if you can't find a good enough English candidate who wants the job, and I think that's important, then obviously, you have to look further afield. Unfortunately, I think if results don't go his way, there will be some fans that may be a little bit small-minded that will highlight the fact that he is German, and they will highlight those differences. The FA need to answer, why not an Englishman? Why didn't they go down that route? Why have they gone down a foreign route again? Like I said, I think Thomas Tuchel is a fantastic coach and will do very, very well. And, they're not questions for him to answer, but I think there are one or two questions for the FA to answer.